Shalom, brethren. Just on my way from Edmond and Norman, Oklahoma, and I'm heading into Texas right now. Tried to have two meetings up there, one with the Philadelphia Church of God. Didn't go so well, and I'll play the video there right now. Joe Dumont here from TheSideOfTheMoon.com. I'm standing in front of the Philadelphia Church of God auditorium. I've just come out of the office, drove here from Toronto, started yesterday, got here this morning, and I've tried to come in and explain what we're teaching here at TheSideOfTheMoon.com. And just like they did on the phone, they wouldn't pass me on to anybody, and when I got here, the secretaries passed me on to the local pastor, who would then take anything beyond that. So I'm going to make this little report here, and hopefully they'll take this report and pass it on. It's about what I'm teaching, and I want all the churches of God, all the people that are keeping Sabbath and holidays, understand this. It's important. We teach about the 1,000 year cycles. We teach you that this is the 120th Jubilee cycle, and that this is also the 70th Jubilee cycle of Daniel 9:24. We're in it. We're in the midst of it. The middle of that Jubilee cycle was 2020. And trying to get someone to listen. Excuse me 1 second. So that was me trying to make a video in front of the Philadelphia Church of God, and as I started to do the video, the pastor Phil and another pastor had to get another guy to come and escort me off the property. I didn't know you weren't allowed to videotape or take pictures of the auditorium. So he didn't want to hear anything I had to say. Nothing. Didn't want to hear anything. Wouldn't let me make an appointment. Got vague about me making an appointment to come and see him next week. Very disappointing. It's the same with the United Church of God up in Canada. Tony Walzikoff, my former pastor, is the head of Canadian work up there, and he basically told me last week that he did not feel that there would be anything of any value coming from our meeting, which is again disappointing. I remember at the Worldwide Church of God, where I used to attend, Neil Earl was my pastor. He's from Newfoundland, a fellow Newfie. He asked a question one day. I don't know why I always remember this, but I do. He asked a question one day: if you are the watchman and you see trouble coming, would those people in Toronto go back up north? There's a scattering of us up in northern Ontario there, and get us and warn us about what was coming. Would we risk our lives to go and do that? And because I lived up there, I said I would be one of the ones to go and do it. You know, I have friends there, all my friends up there. Well, right now, what I'm doing here now is absolutely insane. I'm even looking, you gotta be crazy to do what I'm doing. I don't have appointments for a lot of these people. I sort of said kind of generally I might be in the area about that time, but I haven't made an appointment. I'm just showing up. I feel a little bit like Paul Revere. I feel I got to do this. We're at the end. We're at that time when things are about to get very bad. I hope I'm wrong. But since 2020 came, and I was right about 2020. Yes, I was wrong about the war, but I was right about 2020. Since that time has come, I'm forced to go out and say what's coming next. So that's why I went to the Churches of God. I love them. I love all the people in the Churches of God. I got a great foundation from them. But they've stopped growing. And if you're listening there and you're in one of the Churches of God, please share this with your pastor. He won't, he'll think you're nuts. But let the other brethren know. Go around your pastors. Let them know. Get ready. the shit is about to hit the fan. Oh, I said the yes word. Yeah, it's about to get very bad. So that's what our book, The Abomination That Makes Desolate, that's what that's going to show you. And the 10 Days of Awe book that comes after that, the one I'm reworking right now, is also going to show you just how bad it's going to get and why. So the Philadelphia Church of God wasn't interested in my message. And I regret that. I love Gerald Flurry. I love some of the things he used to teach. I do not like the conspiracy teachings that his son is now teaching through the ministry. Okay, so we disagree. After that, I went over and contacted Monty Judah of Lion and Lamb Ministries and asked him if I could have a few minutes of his time. And we went out for lunch. He dropped what he was doing, came and got me, went out for lunch. I said to Jehovah, whoever you want me to see, open the door. Whoever you don't want me to see, close the door.
This is a question from Jason. There is a teaching going around about the sabbatical years, which pretty much goes against the Daniel timeline. And from that, I understand that it says it will be here until about 2033, and we'll go into captivity. Is this a possibility, or do you believe everything that will happen much sooner? All right, the question is, he doesn't really give attribution to the person who's doing this teaching, but I believe I know who the person is that is giving this teaching. I believe his name is Joseph Dumond. I have personally met with Joseph Dumond. In fact, Eddie and I spent a day with him going over his material and his teaching. And his counting of the sabbatical years and the Jubilee years, I believe, is filled with error and is not correct. We have spoken with him very directly about that. He actually approached us hoping that we would pick it up and we would teach it. We declined to do so. So let me just leave it at that I don't believe that concept or that teaching pattern is accurate or correct with regard to the sabbatical years and the Jubilee years.
And it looks like the churches of God, the door is closed. So I had a great meeting with Samuel Graham. He's in the oldest Sacred Names church in the United States, up in Eaton Rapids. I spoke there in 2009. I spoke at the Monty's group in 2013. I didn't speak, I went and seen him. And I'm back again now with this message. Samuel said I could have an hour, and so when was that, Wednesday morning? Thursday morning. Thursday morning I went and seen him. That hour turned into 3 hours. And he was very engaged and very wanting to know more about what I said, why I was saying it, and how it came to my understanding.
Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to come here today to learn and to sharpen each other and giving us a place to fellowship openly. We just pray that you put a hedge of protection around us and keep us safe and sound, and bless us with clarity of mind and strength to understand. In the name of Yeshua, the Messiah, who strengthens us. So be it. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Okay, go ahead and tell us your name and where you're from.
I'm Joe Dumond. My website is sedmoon.com. I'm from Orangeville, or now Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. We teach about the sabbatical and Jubilee years, and we've been doing that since 2005. And I came here in 2009, not a very good speaker, and tried to explain it to your assembly here at that time. And I was greatly honored. I did not at that time know the history of this place, nor appreciate it, but I have learned about it since, and I do appreciate it now. It's actually part of my latest book I just published. So.
Well, good.
Yeah. So what I've come here for, what I wanted to see you about, I'm not looking for another speaking gig. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to share with you something that you can share with your assembly and with others. As you know, I still teach the Sabbatical and Jubilee. Everything I talk about revolves around that. It's for I was just saying to Jesse, it's like for Christians, the basis is the Sabbath. You got to understand the Sabbath. And then you start doing that, and then the Hebrew roots is, well, you got to understand the holy days. And then they all stop there. But I'm telling people, you got to understand the Jubilee cycles. Now, I'm not going to argue with people as to when it is and how it is. When I first spoke
Phil?
Good morning.
Morning.
Bill?
Joe.
Joe?
Phil Smith.
Phil. So Phil, I'm Joe Dumont from SetAgoon.com, and I'm from Orangeville, or Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. I keep saying that. We just moved. I teach about the Jubilee cycles. And I teach you how they reveal end-time prophecy. So, so the basis for us, you mentioned Hebrew roots, whatever you want to call us, all the different groups, not just the Sabbath, not just the holy days, but the Jubilee cycles. So with that understanding, I have been able to understand end-time prophecy. I couldn't believe it at first, starting in 2004 or 5, and I kept saying, but I was nobody then. So I kept telling people about it, not thinking that I knew anything, but trying to get the leadership. I was in the Worldwide Church, or United Church of God at the time.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get them to look at this, but they wouldn't look at it, and they just escorted me out the door.
Yeah, because they've had studies briefly that mention the Jubilee.
Everyone talks about
Yeah.
it, but nobody looks into it. So they escorted me out the door, which is, I don't regret that. That was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that made me so mad. I started this ministry,
Yeah.
right? And I wanted somebody like any of the Torah teachers at that time to take this and start teaching it, because I didn't figure I was qualified. You know, I never went to a seminary or a bachelor college or anything like that. I just worked construction, digging ditches, kicking people in the butt, and that's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
I'm now retired, but since 2005, I've been telling people about 2020. And it comes from the Daniel 9 prophecy. So if you want to go to Daniel 9, I can pull it up here. Okay, so I'll just read it, just review it with you guys. 70 weeks are decreed as to your people. So I stop everyone right there and I say, what is 70 weeks? And most our Christian brain says 70 times 7. But if you look up the word weeks here in the Hebrew, it's the Shabuah,
What verse is that?
9:24. So the word is Shabuah. And when you look that up, everywhere it's in the Bible, except for 2 places, it means the Feast of Weeks.
Right.
So what's the Feast of Weeks?
Pentecostal, they usually call it. but,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, Shavuot,
Which
the
means
Feast of
50.
Ingathering, the Feast of Oaths, the Feast of Harvest.
So that would be calculated, 50 days after one of the Sabbaths and the unleavened bread.
Right.
Feast of unleavened bread.
Right, the morrow after the Sabbath,
Yeah.
and then the morrow after the 7th Sabbath is the 50th day. So what's the weeks?
Feast of Weeks.
Feast of Weeks. It's a 49.
Okay.
So Daniel is telling you here, not 70 times 7, 70 times 49. So 70 times 49 is 3,430 years. Are decreed for your people, not the Jews, but all 12 tribes of Israel. Okay?
You said 7,340 years?
3,430.
Oh, 3,000.
That's 70 times 49.
Okay.
Okay? So, then it goes on in the rest of the verse, all this stuff is supposed to be finished, and none of that stuff is finished. And people try and say it's supposed to be finished since Christ came here. Well, he hasn't come here. Well, I mean, he has come,
Yeah,
but the sin is still in the world.
That's
All
right.
these things are still in the world, so they didn't get finished.
No, this kingdom still has to come, and he still has to destroy Satan
right.
after the 1,000-year millennium, and he still has to hand over the kingdom to
So
his
it's
father.
not 490 years,
Okay.
right? He didn't finish it in 490 years. It's 3,430 years. So now, where does that start? Verse 25. Know therefore. So we're supposed to know. We're supposed to understand. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command, what was the command? Christian thinking says it's Aharaz or Exerces, 455, 454, 453, 452, depending on which theology you subscribe to, the date keeps moving.
What year was Moses? What year was Moses?
Ah, this guy's on the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the command? So I asked this to a lady in the Philippines last 2 months ago, and she said it's the 10 Commandments, which I'd never thought of before.
Well, it says here the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem.
Yeah, but she just said the 10 Commandments. So from the time of the command, it's not Xerxes, it's not Ahasuerus, it's not the Persian kings. It's got nothing to do with that. That was created by Julius Africanus in 202 AD. The 490-year prophecy here started with the Maccabees to justify John Hyrcanus. The next time it was used was Rabbi Akiva during the Bar Kokhba revolt to justify Simon Bar Kokhba. And Rabbi Yossi even fudged the dates for when the temple was first destroyed and the second temple destroyed in order to make that 490-year work so Simon Bar Kokhba could be the Messiah. He died, but that fudge chronology that Simon or Rabbi Yossi used became part of the genome and all these sages down to our day today. They still use it, it's still wrong, but they believe it to be the truth. That's why they're up by 240 years. So let's just scrub that off. After the Bar Kokhba revolt, then the church fathers started to use this prophecy to justify Jesus. They couldn't figure it out until that started in 180, and then 202, Julius Africanus came up with what we today call the gap theory.
Right.
7 years, that mysterious 7 years, is going to pop in and settle in here at some point. But in between, nobody knows. I can't do math that way. 1 plus 1, and then some other number 5,000 years later equals 3.
Yeah, I studied the gap theory a little bit. It started coming about right around the time that evolution was starting to really be preached. So the Bible believers wanted to line up with the scientists, so they came up with this gap theory.
Yeah.
You know, and even that's different depending on who you talk to.
Julius Africanus was the first one to use it. And since he did it, it hasn't really changed that much.
What year was that?
202
Okay.
AD. So now let's go back. And Phil already gave you the answer. The going forth of the command is from Moses. So here's the great thing about the chronology. I can put that aside for a moment. What we've done here is I've taken the Jubilee cycles and I just started counting them on this side. So just look on the one side here. Let me put that there. Just look on the one side. I said the year that Adam was created is year 1. Okay? And we count to 49. I'm doing it the Hebrew way from right to left, right? 49, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and 49. Those are all sabbatical years. Shemitah. Okay? The 50th year is the first year of the next count. Now there's some debate whether it is or isn't. I've got the proof. I got 89 sabbatical year proofs.
50th year is first year.
50th year is the first year. So, you know, I tell people don't believe anything I say. Let's prove it. And you can prove it. So I just started counting like that and going up this on this right hand side, and we just went and did the chronology in Genesis. Here's the birth of Seth, and here's the birth of whoever was next. Enoch, Seth, Adam. Yeah, so I got all the notes in the bottom.
I'd like to go on a real quick tangent. This might help me on one of my projects. I'd like 3 things in history. Okay, here's how I feel. You got the Jewish calendar, and you got our calendar that I use today.
Gregorian.
So I need 3 points in history in order to make my program work right that are, concrete. This one corresponds to this one.
I got it.
Well, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I got it. We'll get to it. Okay, so we're coming through here. We're talking about the chronology in Genesis. You just do that. You can find it, and we start with year 1. Everyone does that. Everyone does the chronology. Everyone figures that out. They make a couple mistakes. The first mistake they make is with the birth of Shem. They say that Shem is 500 years old, and actually it says in Genesis 5:3, I believe it is, that Shem was 502 or 500 when the birth of his son starts with an A, Arpachshad. That means that he was 98 at the flood.
Okay.
Okay? That's just a small thing, but that's where a lot of people make their mistake. The next one is when you get up to Abraham. Now, Abraham born in 1948, and then was he 75 when he came into the land? When his father was 70, when he was 75, and his father was 230, and there's that whole scenario. So we got 2 different dates there to work from, 75 or 230. So what I did was I did both dates. So I just went through both ones, because we have to get to a thing here. And the thing that I'm trying to get to is Leviticus 25:2. Because you can do the chronology up to Leviticus 25:2 when they come into the land. When they come into the land shall have a rest. Okay? That's a sabbatical year.
Right.
Is it a Jubilee year? I'm saying it is. Some of the sages say it is. But the majority, the Pharisaic group, said it wasn't. So they went with Yoshi's, Rabbi
That's every
Yossi.
7 years.
It's every 7 years.
Yeah.
Consistently every 7
So it
years.
wasn't 1400 something?
No. When you do the chronology, you can get up to the covenant made with Abraham. Then it's 430 years from there to the Exodus. Right? And then from the birth of Isaac, 400 years, or not when Isaac's 10, 400 years. That will bring you to 2458 as the Exodus from the creation of Adam, which works out to be our date of 1386 BC. So that's where people are going to get hung up, because it's either 1250 or 1450.
I thought
I've heard some guys, he had 1400 something.
from
Yeah.
when Abraham was given
1446, I think it is.
the covenant, 430 years later, the Levitical priesthood would have been given. So,
That's when they crossed the Red Sea.
yeah, so if we go back to, what is it, Genesis
15?
Genesis 26, oh yeah, 15:6 would be when it started. And then it shows you that he was it 26:5? Oh, Genesis, I wonder why.
Okay.
So they come into the land, when was yours, sir? They came in
1386 BC.
1386, okay.
So this is a whole, my teaching is about 40 hours long.
Okay.
And Samuel's given me an hour, so I don't want to burn it all up on just the Jubilee part. Okay, so when you do the chronology up to the Exodus, you'll see right here in the middle, we've counted 50 Jubilees. each Jubilee is counted in the middle, starting with Adam. Right? So it starts off with 0. After the first one's completed, that's 1. Just like your birthday, you don't become 1 until you've lived the whole year. Okay? So
So, yeah.
50 have now expired. 50 Jubilees have now expired. And Moses is given the command 7 times in Exodus 3 and 4 to go and get my people. But he doesn't want to do it. I can't talk. I stutter. I'm scared. I'm too old. Go and get my people. Go. So, and God gets mad. Right? So he goes, and that's the command to go and get my people. That's a command given in Daniel 9, 27. Right?
9:27 said Daniel. It says that he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week.
No, sorry. Daniel 9:24. 70 weeks are decreed for your people. So now, 70 weeks, 70 Shabuah, 70 49s. What's that sound like? 70 Shavuots. Shabuah is the female of Shavuot, which was masculine. 70 Jubilee cycles. It's the same thing. So 70 times 49 is 3,430 years. So now, just without getting all technical, because we can get technical, but I don't have enough time with you today.
Right.
We've now got 50 Jubilees up to the Exodus, 70 more Jubilees. I don't know what's wrong with this one. This one is supposed to have them all numbered here, but it doesn't. Okay, so this is an older, wrong version.
Okay.
The new version on Amazon has them all numbered. So you start counting here, 1, right? 2, 3. It'll bring you up to 70 Jubilees later, which will be 120 Jubilees in total. That's the 6 millennial days of mankind.
Yep.
That is the Jubilee cycle that we are living in today. So we are in the final 120th Jubilee cycle.
Okay.
Okay? So the dates you're looking for are the Exodus, but we got problems with the Christian Exodus, 1446 or 1250. Okay?
We're recording too.
Then you got the Battle of Karkar, 853, and the coming against Hezekiah by Sennacherib in 701. Now, that's the only 2 dates you have for the Hebrew kings. Other than that, we don't know when they exist because they left no record that we can match up with our chronology. In the Assyrian chronology, we can trace down through Ptolemy down to our time, Babylonian Ptolemy, and then our time now. Okay? And it works. So 2 Kings 19:29. This year, this is the promise to Hezekiah from God. This year you shall eat what grows of itself, which means he didn't plant. Next year you shall eat what grows of the same, which means you didn't plant again. And in the 3rd year you shall plant and sow and reap. What he's telling Hezekiah is that you're not going to be killed by the Assyrians this day. You're going to at least be here for 3 more years. And then he goes on to promise him 15 years before he dies. That's 2 Kings 19:29. That's the first place. That's the second place that we have a Jubilee year mentioned. So that is 701. It's the most documented year in history. We know it's the 49th year, the first year of that promise. The 7th or 2nd year, because you only have a Jubilee year back to back. 2nd year is 700 BC. So we have those 2 dates. You're looking for solid dates. There's one. Okay? You also have the Bar Kokhba revolt. And the Bar Kokhba revolt takes place because they believe that Simon is coming as the Messiah in the Jubilee year of 134. So it takes place in 133, which is a 49th year. That's 133 AD. And 134 AD is the Jubilee year. And when you plot them on Excel, bring them back, the first year lines up with the first year of 700.
Are they using the 360 or the 365 and a half?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Those two dates are just irrelevant.
No, I mean days per year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're irrelevant.
Okay.
Okay? Don't get confused by that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get bogged down that, no, it really doesn't matter.
Okay.
Okay? And that's taking you back to Noah's flood. That'd be, 1150 days? And that's 35 months of 30 days, right? Okay, so I go by the crescent moon.
Okay.
So that was him not seeing the moon. Because you don't see the moon, it's an automatic 30-day month.
Okay.
Okay? So you got those 2 dates now. You got to connect that to this site. So 49 times 100 and, no. 49 times 120. That's not right. Yes, 49 times 120, 5,880 years.
Well, I see, so not 120 times 50, which would give you the,
6,000.
yeah,
It's 120 times 49. 5,880 years. Genesis 6:3 says that you can only have 120 cycles of time. 120 Shana, which has been translated as years. A cycle of time can be anything. It can be a month, it can be a week, it can be a Jubilee cycle. But the interpreter said it was a year. But nobody lives to be 120 on average. So what is he talking about? It's 120 cycles of time for mankind. Now 120 Jubilee cycles for mankind, because God's talking about mankind. Not Adam, mankind. People think it's talking about Noah, which happens 3 verses later. No, it's not. It's mankind. It says so in the same verse. Okay, so now we got 120 Jubilee cycles. I go through all this to get you to understand that we are in the last one right now. So we are in the last one. Okay? Now, go back to Daniel 9. Know therefore and understand. So how do we prove this? Okay, I forgot this part. How do we prove this? Know therefore and understand. From the going forth of the command, which I'm saying is the Exodus, to restore and build Jerusalem. When did Yeshua ever rebuild Jerusalem?
not yet.
Okay, so it's from the time of the commandment to, and when does Yeshua become a prince?
Wait. I'll throw something in. There was a thing where they brought the people back together. I mean, the physical building didn't show back up, but the people got back together on the land. That's a renewing of the land.
But when did Yeshua do that? This verse is talking about Yeshua, or they Christians say. I'm saying it's not. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command, I'm saying that's Moses, to restore and build Jerusalem, to Messiah the Prince. My Messiah was never a prince. My Messiah is a king.
That's right.
Who's Messiah the Prince? Ezekiel 34:20, I believe it is, or 20:34. It says that King David is Messiah the Prince.
Ezekiel what?
I think it's 34:20.
Okay.
King David is Messiah the Prince. Shall be 7 weeks, or 7 Shabuah, or 7 Jubilee cycles. So let's put it to the test. If my theory is correct, we start counting from the Exodus, in the 51st Jubilee cycle, we start counting. After 7 Jubilee cycle, we should see King David.
You said King David is the prince?
He's the prince.
Okay.
So how many after that, after Exodus?
After the Exodus Jubilee,
Yes.
yeah, it says 7 Shabuah in Daniel 9:25.
Yeah, that's
Okay, so now get back to Daniel 9:25. 7 Jubilee cycles. So Jesse, count here with me. Okay. There's 1. Okay, that's the Exodus. 2, 3. Okay. 4, 5, 6, 7. After 7, What year have you got here?
1043.
Okay. When did King David become king?
10:6. Was that 19? 10:10.
1010. He was 40 years old when he became king over Judah. That made him born in 1040.
Okay.
Right? And he became king over all of Israel in 103 BC. So what we have here is we have Samuel anointing him, because that's what Messiah really means. It means Mashiach, the anointed.
Right.
Doesn't mean Jesus.
No.
It means if you're anointed, you're a Mashiach,
Mm-hmm.
right? So are you. So are you. So am I. But we are not Jesus.
Right.
So is King David. He was anointed as a young boy, as a shepherd boy, by Samuel, right? Then he was anointed by Judah when he became king. Then he was anointed by Israel. That's 3 major anointings. King David is our anointed, and he shows up after 7 Shabuah, just like the prophecy says.
Okay.
Maybe I'm on to something, okay? So now, then it goes on to say, so who's the subject of Daniel 9:25? Who's the principle that we're talking about here?
Are you talking about the prince?
It's King David,
King David, right?
okay?
Yeah.
Because it says the prince is King David in Ezekiel, I think 34:20 or 34:34, I'm not sure what it is. And then it says, until him is 7 Jubilee cycles, and then it's still talking about him. It hasn't changed anybody else. Shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks, or 62 Shabuah. So now from there you count 62 Shabuah. And that brings you down to this last one again. So King David is going to show up in this Jubilee cycle.
Okay.
The one we're in now.
The one we're in now. Which is what Judah's been saying all along. And I have 5 scriptures I can never remember. Ezekiel, Hosea, I can never remember, and that's the one book I didn't bring with me today. There's 5 scriptures saying that King David is going to rule during the 7th millennium. Okay?
Yeah, I believe he's going to be ruling under Yeshua.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But King David is going to rule.
Yeah, they'll have him as king.
Okay,
That's also in Ezekiel, I think.
so now, if we understand this now, Daniel 9:25 has now got us into the 120th Jubilee cycle, the one we're in now. Then it goes on to say, and after 62 weeks, this is verse 26, after 62 weeks, Mashiach, the anointed, shall be cut off, but not for himself. So that people automatically assume that's talking about Jesus in 31 or 30 AD. But it's here, is he going to be cut off when he comes back? It doesn't make sense if this is understood right. Who's the Messiah here? Who's the anointed?
You're talking about David
No, that was the
in 20.
Prince.
prince before it. But now it's talking about the
The
Messiah.
Messiah.
Who's
It's gotta
that?
be Yeshua there.
Yeah.
No,
No?
it's you. You just said it. You are the anointed. Who are the anointed? All of Israel. Israel is going to be cut off at this time because Israel is not obeying God,
Yahweh.
right?
Yeah.
So Israel is going to be cut off. And it says here, he shall be cut off. So when you go back to the Hebrew, and I encourage you to do that, go back to the Hebrew, it means he will be cut off and be as if he never was. So I believe that Israel, all 12 tribes, are the United States, United Kingdom, Judah, Holland, Norway, Finland, all those. I don't know where you guys are on that.
Yeah, so basically the European nations with Great Britain.
The Anglo-Saxons,
America, right, yeah.
the Caucasians,
The Scots.
the Scots,
Yeah.
the stubborn Scots. Okay? So they are going to be cut off and annihilated because they don't obey God. They don't keep the Sabbath, they don't keep the holy days, and nobody's going to church even now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, they just not too long ago they opened up buses and everything to be able to work on Sabbath, which Israel never did up until the point when they just said, "Okay, go for it."
There's no holy day. There's no sacred day. Not even Sunday.
I think the Prime Minister laughed at the idea of having the Torah as their constitution too.
Which prime minister?
The one that's coming back.
Netanyahu?
Yeah, I think so. They because they had presented it
Oh yeah.
as being the
Okay.
constitution, and he's like,
Israel also
Just
is
laughed
going.
it away.
Judah is also part of Israel. They will also be cut off here.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing about Israel too is, from communication I was having, they forced the vaccine on all the way through. On each cycle the vaccine came out, and there was only like 2 or 3 people within their government part that were actually doing this, and the people had to follow the rules. So that was really interesting.
I was surprised at that. I
So
was really surprised that they made him.
we're going to come back to the vaccine. I'm not going to go into the vaccine, but COVID plays a major part here.
Okay.
And he shall confirm. So verse 27 now. Okay, let's finish up 26. And he shall cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the ruler who shall come, who's this? I believe it's Satan, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. Now look up the word sanctuary. It can also mean saints. And saints fits better when you put all these scriptures together. You may disagree with me, that's fine. The interpreter said it was a sanctuary. I'm interpreting that to be saints. The city and the saints, and the end of it shall be with a flood, and ruins are determined until the end shall be war. Okay, that's what's that mean? Who's that? I don't know yet. Let's go to Daniel 9:27. And he, Satan, shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 Shabuah. So here's the trick question. If you remember, I think, well, in 2009, I don't think I knew it then. What is a covenant made with many? And it's only going to last 1 Shabuah, 49 years. We've got 2 to choose. The European Union made a covenant with the United Kingdom called the Common Market, January 1973. That was still part of the 72 year, right? Because that year didn't finish until March. And they got out of that in 2020, December 31st. 49 years. That's covenant with many, okay, yeah. There's another one. The United Nations Environmental Program. It was created in June 6, 1972. And it's to save the trees, to save the koala bear, save the blue whale, save the little toad that's in your backyard. It's a good cause. Stop spreading oil, because back in that day in 1972, we had a lot of oil spills going on. And I remember them, the Valdez and other ones. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. It's a good cause.
You know, the thing about it though, I noticed a lot of different things are good causes, but I keep seeing things get hijacked.
There you go. You're right on. So the UNEP creates this constitution. 113 nations signed on to it. Then they start having the Kyoto Accord, the Agenda 21, the Rio Accord, the Rio Plus 20, all these different things that they do every year, which is what COP27 is all about. What is it that they're doing? So in Paris Accord is the most recent name, and that's the one that every single nation around the world signed on to it. Obama signed onto it, and then Trump signed out of it his first year in office. But he could not get out of it for 4 years until January 1, 2020. That just so happens to be 49 years. Biden then re-signed back into it the very next day when he took office. So, what was January 6th, was that when he took office? Or January 20th? Whenever.
Sure.
I think it's like the 18th of January, somewhere in there, 20th.
Yeah, so that covenant with many was ended.
What was that? What was that one was ended in?
It was Paris, the Paris
Oh,
Accord.
Paris.
The Paris Accord. So what's wrong with that agenda? Okay? They're fighting climate change. They're saving the world. They're doing all this stuff. Yada, yada, yada. South Africa, 2011. Oh, I forgot to mention one other thing. The Paris, or the United Nations Environmental Program, the very first thing of the Constitution was to have human rights. That was the first thing enshrined in the Constitution. What does a blue whale need with human rights?
Right.
Or a tree? The sequoia tree or the koala bear? What do they need with human rights? But that's in the Constitution. It's the very first thing put in there. Here's, and you got it right. It gets twisted. South Africa, 2011. Human rights are now amended so that LGBTQ is now acceptable, and gay marriage. And remember in 2011 how everything changed, and now all our leaders are now pushing for the human rights. Human rights. It's not human rights. It's LGBTQ rights, right? And now we got LGBTQ XYZ double P. I don't even know. I thought there was 2 and maybe a third one. Now there's 15 different, and you get to choose in kindergarten which one you're going to be.
You know,
This perversion, which is what you said, started in 2011. This covenant made with many is now perverted, and the whole world is signed on to it. And LGBTQ is just like in just before they entered the promised land from Moab, Baal Peor. They worship Baal Peor. What is Baal Peor? It's the god of holes. Any hole will do. That's oral sex, anal sex, child sex, bestiality. Any place you can stick it will do, as long as you get your jollies off of what you're doing.
Wow.
That's Baal Peor. And try and find a statue of Baal Peor. I found one, and now it's off the market. You can't find it on Wikipedia anymore. He's bent up with his anus in the air and his mouth open to accept whatever they're going to give him, anally or orally. That's the God. And that's what Israel was into just before they entered the promised land.
Yeah, I think that was the original definition of sodomy, was oral, anal, and it included bestiality. Right?
And child.
Okay.
And child sex.
Yep.
So they're all, anything goes. That's what, now it moves into the temples and all these churches, and all these churches are just doing the temple stuff without the oral sex stuff, but they're bringing it in. We now got gay pastors and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the covenant made with many. Okay? So
Wow.
we're answering this here, Daniel 9:27. Now, okay, so that's just the first line. Let's move on to the next line, because this is the whole purpose of me being here today. And in the midst of the week, I cut you off. Did you want to say something before I go on?
yeah, I was going to mention Saudi Arabia. It looks like they are allowing their devices, like a robot, to become
Yeah, human rights.
have rights.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's crazier and crazier. Okay, so now back to Daniel
I'll just
9:27.
mention one other thing. It seems like we should start taxing, devices like robots or AI programs, because I guess it was Google that the guy quit after the program asked him about, what was God and all this stuff, and then it went on to come into the point where it said that the robot's always programmed with certain things. And it goes, well, why do I have to follow any of these?
Okay, so they're not gonna have time to put a tax up by the time you get to what I'm talking about here. There's not gonna be time for any government to put out a new tax on anything after 10 months. Okay? And in the midst of the week, in the midst of the Shabuah, what's that mean? So we're talking about this Shabuah, this 120th, 70th Shabuah, in the midst of the week. What's that mean?
In the midst of 7 years?
No, it's the midst of the Shabuah, not the week. It's a Shabuah. In the midst of that 49 years,
Oh, that's right.
right? So
Okay.
what's midst mean?
Middle.
Yes. What's the middle of 49 in this 120th Jubilee cycle? So 1996 was the last Jubilee year. 2044 is the 49th year.
2044. What is the 49th year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And 2045 will be the Jubilee year, will be the start of the 7th millennium. That is just 22 years from now,
When is the start of the millennium?
2045. I do not care what end time theology you subscribe to. And I say that not to be cocky or anything, it just doesn't matter. You got 22 years for that to fit in there. Because I know for absolute surety these Jubilee cycles are correct. I've got 89 historical, biblical, and artifacts to back them up. So when I first came to you, I only had 12 and I was a nervous little tweet. Now I'm not nervous anymore and I really don't care what you think of me. The shit's about to hit the fan. Big time. So the middle, okay, I asked you what the middle is.
Is this where, in between this time, it looks like, kind of like a middle between this, our date here and that date, they're expecting a big asteroid to hit the planet or something? I don't know.
I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay.
It won't be here in time. So, we can speculate about all these other
Yep,
troubles.
got it.
I'm going to give you the biblical hard facts.
Okay.
The middle of this Jubilee cycle is 2020. And when I came here in 2009, I was telling you about 2020. And in the midst of the week, 2020, he shall cause sacrifice and offering to cease. So we've now got 2 years behind us. We're almost into 2023. We got almost 3 years behind us. What happened in 2020 to cause sacrifice and offering to cease?
There were no gatherings hardly.
Hang on. How did you get that?
COVID.
COVID,
Okay, so COVID happened
March of 2020.
March 11th. COVID was announced by who on March 11th? What's that got to do with sacrifice and offerings?
I guess the same month they turned on all the satellites and people don't know the difference between a COVID sickness and a satellite sickness.
Okay, COVID was real. So what is the thing to sacrifice and offering? What is that?
Sacrifices, we do that in fellowship, right? Sacrifice of the lips.
Hosea 14:2. The bullocks of your lips.
Yeah.
That ceased.
Yep.
Every church, every assembly, except maybe this one, every synagogue, every temple, even every atheist was shut down for COVID. I say atheist jokingly. Every place of worship was shut down. I know you're giving me that. What's he talking about atheists for? I saw that. Every place of worship around the world was shut down. All the temples in India, all the shrines in
Which was interesting.
Asia.
Because it wasn't,
Wow.
they got scared through the news because when he looked into the law, or not the law, but what was set up as rules for the shutdown, it excluded people gathering together
First of it,
for the
yeah.
assembly. Even all the way through. Once they started shutting down, it was the fear that they were seeing in the news. But when you looked at it, that rule still stood in place. People just didn't do it.
Well, in Canada, we had some rebels that were out there trying to make sure the churches were still open and they were being arrested. They're just for me, they were just doing it for the news.
Exactly.
They weren't doing it for, they were told to obey our authorities. Pray for our authorities, obey them.
We had a guy right down the road here, a kid come up here because the guy was sitting out here and he said, we're gonna turn you in.
But you,
I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
say go ahead, because when I looked at that time, that rule still stood, but they were teaching it the opposite on the news. So
Yeah.
when you would actually look it up, it wasn't what they were saying on the news at all. People just fell into the fear and they just started shutting down. But I'm like, it's still, we're still excluded from this.
Yeah. So March 11th, 2020, I kept Passover that day. That was 1 month ahead of what I believe you would have been keeping. Because I go by the crescent moon calendar and barley. So on the day that I kept Passover, WHO announced a worldwide pandemic. And I knew something was coming in 2020, but I believed it was war because the fourth curse of Leviticus 26, which is where I go by, the fourth curse is sword, famine, plague. So swords first. I'm telling you, one sword's coming. What do I know? I can't change it, put it backwards, but he did.
CDC director. The CDC director started that whole thing.
The sword?
No, the pandemic part.
Well, he declared a pandemic.
Yeah, that's what
So the world shut down. 6.6 million people died. 636 million people got infected, according to John Hopkins. Something happened. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause sacrifice and offering to cease. We've already said that's the bullets of our lips. Now you know what it's talking about. The bullets of our lips ceased.
The bulls,
The bullets.
bullets.
Hosea 14:2.
Calf of our lips is
The calves of
Oh.
our lips.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Okay. So now we have a definite event in 2020. We have, I believe, we have a definite match in Daniel 9:27. I've been warning people about this since 2005, but I thought it was sword first. The United Nations just said, can I bring it in? I misplaced it already.
So I'll go on a quick hint. Let me think.
Well, before you do, let me finish this.
Go ahead.
The United Nations, David Beasley said 5 years ago, there was 80 million people on famine's doorstep. And he figured he could cure that. Then, what happened? Then COVID hit. Then supply chain disruptions hit, and it doubled to 130 million. And then it doubled again to 325 million with the pandemic, the Russia war, the Ukraine embargo of their wheat. And we've gone from 80 to 345 million people on famine's doorstep right now. And 50 million of those people are going to die within months, he said. Sword, plague, famine. We got the plague, we got the famine. Sword's coming. Now, according to my understanding, sword should be here in this 4 sabbatical cycle. And we're only in 2022, starting 2023. That's a sabbatical year. We should be stocking up on food now. And we need to stock up not just for the sabbatical year, we need to stock up on food for the next 8 years. And I'll explain that in a moment. But we need to be doing that now. So now, if my understanding is correct, and I say if on your behalf because I believe 100% that I am correct. Okay? So now we go to Daniel, if you want to read Daniel 12, verse 11.
It says, here, let me do it over here. So 12:11.
Yeah.
And from that time, which is continual, is taken away, and the abomination that lays waste is set up, is 1,290 days.
What's the continual?
tight situations.
No.
The 12:11 says, and from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up.
When was the daily taken away?
During COVID?
March 11th. 7 days later, which would have been my 7th day of unleavened bread, was when things started to lock down, when they started to enforce the lockdown. So the daily here in Daniel 12:11 is the same, like there's no other daily that's been stopped. We do not need a temple. People think you gotta wait for the temple before this stuff starts happening. That's the deception. They're looking at the wrong thing. It's already happening. The daily has been taken away. Now you start your count. You can start your count from March 11th, or you can start your count from March 18th. That's when the lockdown actually started. You got wiggle room in there someplace. Now, when I was here in 2009, I was telling you May 31st for the middle of the week, the middle of that year, which would have been Shavuot. But I was looking for war. Now, we have definite WHO operations on March 11th. The world's shutting down by March 18th. Now you start counting 1,290 days from that period. That brings you to September 22nd from March 11th. And September 29th, I think, from March 18th. September 22nd is the Friday during the 10 days of awe. Sunday night will be the start of the Day of Atonement. That's if you go from March 11th. From March 18th, it will be the day before, 2 days before Sukkot. Okay. Now, you okay with that? We're going to jump again.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that daily, that word, it can mean continual, or the regular daily sacrifice, and continual employment. I just thought that was interesting.
So we have no Levites, we have no temple, we have no daily sacrifice. So what is it? It can only be.
But the employment was shut down too during the COVID.
Yeah. Well,
So that's where I'm kind of
Unless-
relating that.
yeah. Okay. Okay. I think I'm in Daniel 8:13. Then I heard a certain holy one speaking to another holy one, and to the one who spoke. And okay. Yeah. Daniel 8:13. So there's two things you're going to learn here. There's two holy ones. I equate these two holy ones to the two witnesses. Then I heard a certain holy one speaking to another holy one, said to that one who spoke, until when shall the vision last concerning the daily sacrifice? So we're talking about the daily again. And the transgression that astounds, to give both the sanctuary. So this is again, this word sanctuary can't be translated as saints. So I say it's saints. To give both the saints and the host to be trampled. So there's three things in this verse. First of all, it's telling you that one of those two witnesses does not know the chronology, and one does. The second thing it tells you is starting from the daily again. Until when shall the vision last concerning the daily? Okay, so starting with the daily, verse 14. And he said to me, for 2,300 and evenings and mornings. So the Churches of God take that split in half, say it's 1150. I said, no, it says evenings and mornings. That's one day. It's the morning sacrifice and the afternoon sacrifice. That's the same day. So it's 2,300 days. Okay? Then the sanctuary or the saints will be vindicated. So the saints will be vindicated. I want you to remember that. Make a note of that. The saints will be vindicated. That's very important. But it's 2,300 days after the daily, right? So we start counting from March 11, 2,300 days. That brings you to 2026. I believe it's June 28th. I'm not sure if that's exactly right, but I think it's June. Which does not fit my theology, because I figured they've got to start in trumpets or atonement or Sukkot, but it's June, which could be Shavuot. Again, so I'm even wrestling with this. Okay? So now, any questions right now? Okay. Now let's go back to the sanctuary, then the sanctuary, I say it's the saints, shall be vindicated. Why do the saints need to be vindicated?
Because they're being trampled on.
Why?
Because of the emergency I kept mentioning.
The what?
The emergency, quote unquote, got mentioning.
No, not the emergency you're mentioning. They're about to be killed. They're about to be slaughtered. How do I know that? We read that in Daniel 12. I think it was 12. Did we read it? 12, 11? And from the time the daily sacrifice be taken away into the no. Okay, so that's the start. Let's go to Revelation. What is it? Revelation 5. The scroll of the Lamb. No, 6, verse 5. Six, 9. Yeah, 6, 9. Excuse me. Revelation 6, 9.
So and when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar souls of them that were slain for the word of Elohim and for the testimony which they held.
Next verse.
And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Yahweh, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?
Avenge, if you look it up in the Greek, I forget what it is, Ezekiel or something like that, I forgot what it is. It means vindicate. And white robes were given to each one of them, and it was said to them that they should rest yet for a little time until both their fellow servants and their brothers, those about to be killed as they were, should have their number made complete. From the abomination, Daniel 12, verse 11, until Daniel 8, 13, 2,300 days, the saints are going to be trampled, killed. From next year until 2026, the saints are going to be slaughtered. Now, you've just read the scriptures with me. Am I making this up? Or am I walking off the street with a crazy thing on my forehead?
So what are we supposed to do?
What are we supposed to do? We got to obey God. That's the only thing you can do to get out of this.
Right.
And some, okay, so now you go to Ezekiel, right? You go to Ezekiel, it says he shaves off, I don't know, all his hair, or just his head, so I forget. And he puts a third of it in his tallit and wraps them up in his tallit. And then he's told to reach into his tallit and take some of those hairs and throw them in the fire. That's the saints that are going to be killed, martyred to perfect them. And we need more volunteers is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. More volunteer saints. So that's why I'm here today. This is a message I was preaching across the Philippines. for the last 3 months. I've been living in my suitcase since August 13th. I've just been home now for a couple days. And now I'm coming here to see you. You're my first stop. Am I crazy?
We'll see when we start researching everything.
Yeah.
So, here's one thing I was thinking, I don't know if it pertains to directly proportional to everybody, but, Random Do Good puts a hammer in the system. It's gotta be random though.
I don't know what that means. Random do good, put a hammer in the system.
Yeah, puts a hammer in the system. See, you mentioned that things will be happening. Yeah, imagine that though. You got a system going against you, the saints.
Right.
Again, I'm just reading the scriptures. I don't know what you're saying. Okay, so God's telling us
Yeah.
from the 1290 to the 2300, there's going to be a slaughter. Now, here's the thing. The saints, okay, who do we say the saints were?
Israel.
12 tribes. Who are they? They're the ones not keeping Torah right now,
Overall, yeah.
right? What does Revelation Church of Philadelphia say? Let's go read it.
Besides them being the only congregation.
What?
Besides them claiming to be the only congregation.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing that.
Yeah.
But let's just go Revelation 3. Sardis,
You
Philadelphia.
don't know how many you always got out there, though.
No.
You're looking at it as people, but you don't know how many individuals he has out there that are keeping his ways.
No,
Oh, yeah, there's-
but I'm fine.
There's always a remnant in
I'm
all
finding
12
more.
tribes that are keeping it, but the remnant is obviously a lot smaller than the
Okay.
other
Overall.
billions that are out there.
Yeah.
There's the Sacred Name movement. There's the Church of God, Worldwide Church of God, and all their remnants.
Yeah.
There's the Hebrew roots. There's the two different calendar groups. There's the Jewish groups. Okay. There's your toe, there's your heel, there's your anus, there's your ear, there's your nose, your mouth, your hair. I don't know what, my toes have no idea how to clean out my ear.
Right.
Cut off my toe and I can't walk. It's part of my body. So what I'm saying is, we got all these different groups. And like you said, we all thought we were the only ones that were the Philadelphia church. All the rest of those messianic messed up people are not,
Right.
right?
Nobody says there's a great multitude that no man can number.
Exactly.
Say now, so that I mean, we can't judge it.
That's right. There's 144,000 from each of the 12 tribes. And there's an innumerable multitude. Now, but they go through the tribulation, right? They come out of the tribulation. So,
Well, I'm looking all through it. I'm not going to be raptured out there.
Right.
no, we're not going to be raptured out.
I don't know.
That's right.
No.
So I'm getting ready.
Yeah.
But you can know when that's going to take place.
It could be any time.
It takes place at the end of the tribulation, and it takes place on the Feast of Shavuot. Because the first things that were brought up were the wave offering at Wave Sheaf Day, when Yeshua came out of the grave. And that wave sheaf on the Sunday morning, there, Matthew 50, verse 27, the saints come out of the grave, they walked into Jerusalem, and oh, you got some,
You
okay.
got a cap drop? Thank you.
Yeah, I always keep them on me now.
So they came into Jerusalem, and where'd they
Thank
go? Did they die again? No. They were raised up on that Sunday morning. So the next wave offering is Shavuot. That's when the wheat will be offered, and we are likened to the wheat. So that's what we're looking for. But that takes place at the end of the tribulation on Shavuot, the last year. So, again, Philadelphia Church.
Thank you.
Revelation 3 verse 8, I know your works. Behold, I have given before you an open door, and no one can shut it, for you have little strength. How many of us are so powerful?
Right.
Is the sacred name church, Assembly of Yahweh. They're pretty big, but are they big and strong?
Yahweh is only one.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
compared to all the other mega church
Right.
as far
Right.
as the funding goes and all that.
David
Is,
wasn't very big compared to Goliath either.
is
No.
Monte's following big? Is Rico's following big? Is Michael Rood's following? Is any of them? Okay. I know mine isn't. No one can shout, for you have little strength and have kept my word and have not denied my name. Behold, I give you out of those of the synagogue of Satan, those saying themselves to be Jews and are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and worship before your feet, to know that I have loved you. Here's the verse I think I want. Because you have kept the word of my patience, you've kept the Torah. Okay? I also will keep you from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon the habitable world, to try those who dwell upon the earth. Okay?
What verse
So
is
there's
that again?
verse 3, verse 10. I'm using the modern King James.
Yep.
So there's hope there. Okay? How this is going to come about, we got our ideas. I don't know. So let me now go back and do you have any questions up until now?
I'd like to
Okay.
throw something. On this country here, what I see is it's almost like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. In other words, there's no communication between the two groups.
There's
Even
more
the
than two. Are you talking about the
polarization. I'm just talking. No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about this country. The polarization of this country. So I'm just saying that they like neither camp knows what the other camp's doing. It's like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing.
This country is dead. There's no need to worry about this country anymore. What you got to worry about is rescuing that person over there and this person over here.
I
That's
know a lot of
the
people
individual.
are looking for this revival, and all you have to do is this. I was like, first of all, it starts with repentance, and scripturally, this is not going to happen here. It's
so. Let me show you.
love's going to grow colder, right? What is the definition of love? Keeping Yahweh's commandments. People are turning a blind eye to that, cold shoulder to it.
When I say
It's
the
just
10
getting
days of awe, you know what I mean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
No, see,
Oh, you don't? 10 days of awe?
I don't know what you mean
Ah.
or your understanding.
Okay, but you know the expression.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then that will start there. Let's go back to another scripture that Matthew.
I don't
As-
know, but you can tell me some other time.
I will. I'm going to tell you in a moment. Matthew, I don't know what verse it is. Oh no, Luke. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the last days. Then he goes on to say, as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the last days. What's that mean?
So I don't make them more.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. So we
And we've got it.
Well,
okay, but
that
that's
means-
not Noah. Well, Noah did Noah have that
The
A lot did.
before the flood? We don't know. We can speculate.
Oh, I think before the flood it was really bad. Just
I'm-
about like it is now.
I won't disagree.
Worse
with you.
than it is now.
Yeah, well, every evil desire basically was being done. So you look at what's going on now. With the
So
things
we're
that you
right.
mentioned.
We're right for it to come back. Big
Yeah.
time.
But okay, so everything you gave just now is speculation.
Right.
Well, what I get out of it too is that the people carry on as though everything's normal when it's not.
Yeah. I was watching the ads on TV and I'm
What
thinking,
is normal? It's always,
wow, the ads are so disjointed from what's going on in the world. And I said, everything's anyway. So as it was in the days of Noah, again, the Jubilee cycles reveal stuff when you look. So let me just find it. So the flood of Noah, 1656 after creation,
Okay.
right? So this side is counting from Adam. This side is Gregorian and Gregorian BC and AD. Okay, I can explain how you match these up. It's going to take a long time. I don't have that time. 1656. Where is it? Right there, top one. That is the 4th year of the 6th sabbatical cycle. Okay, you see that?
The fourth year of what?
Of the sixth sabbatical cycle. So we count the sabbatical cycles going from left to right as the first one each 7 years, right? The sixth one is the one that the flood took place in.
Right, and that's 1656 was when the flood.
Yes. And BC years is 2181. Okay, so now we come forward to as it was in the days of Lot. And we know that Lot was, Sodom and Gomorrah took place 1 year before Isaac was born, right? So that would be the year 2047 after the creation of Adam, which is our equivalent to 1790 BC. And the thing about this is, it's the third year of the sixth sabbatical cycle. Do you see anything similar there? They both take place in the sixth sabbatical cycle. This is the fourth year, this is the third year. As it was in the days of Noah, as it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the last days. Okay, before I jump there, let me show you one other one that I found, which is not mentioned. This is the 7 years of plenty in green of Joseph and Pharaoh. I dismissed this at first because it wasn't a 7-year block of time. It starts in the middle, ends in the middle, starts in the middle, ends in the middle. It didn't make sense to me, and I didn't know what to do with it. And I had a number of people write me and say, go and look at that again, because it lines up in the third year of the sixth sabbatical cycle when the famine, or the completion of the famine, is done. What's that mean? I don't know. But I got 3 things now that line up with that time. So now bring that up to our time. And I go the sixth cycle, and I'll count 1, 2, 3, which would be 2033, or 2034 if you want to go to the fourth year. Okay. So then we know that Yeshua died according to Passover in every detail. Every single detail. So how do the fall holy days play in here? So I just did an experiment when I was doing this, and this is what I did before I came and seen you, and I think I explained it when I was here, that I made the Jubilee year like the 8th day. The Jubilee year has similar teachings to the 8th day. And the Jubilee year also and the 8th day has similar teachings to Shavuot, which is an 8th day feast. They're all connected. So I just, as my hypothesis, I put down 2045 as the 8th day. So 7 days before that would be Sukkot, which brought me to 2038 for the first 7 days of Sukkot. So that's a holy day. That's a holy day. And then 5 days before that brings me to 2033 as the day of Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. And then 10 days before that brings me to 2024, which would be the Feast of Trumpets. Now, until last year, that 2024 representing the Feast of Trumpets, so you got to understand what each of the holy days mean to be applicable here. Feast of Trumpets, that's when I believe Yeshua was born, and that's when you're going to come back again on the Feast of Trumpets, and he's coming back to judge. The Day of Atonement, Satan's locked away, and Revelation 12, you see the angel coming down, grabbing, throwing in the pit for 1,000 years. That takes place at the end of the 6th millennium, which is where we are now, and before the 7th begins. But when? The Day of Atonement. So the Day of Atonement, when I put the holy days as years, match the time of Noah and the time of Lot. So between those 2 times, there's only 6 months. That's why you go 2033 or 34, right? Now, 10 days of awe. I don't know about you, because you've always been here, right? Every feast, all your life. Am I right?
Right?
Right. Me, I've been married to a unconverted mate, and we just went through 40 years walking this walk this year together. And this year she kicked me out, and when I was away and when I came back for our anniversary, I had no place to go to. We are now reconciling. I've gone through the 40-year test, and I'm still trying to hang on to my wife.
Okay.
Okay? So, but it's our 44th anniversary.
Hallelujah.
Where was I going? Oh, every feast, every single feast since I started in 1982 has been a trial, has been an ordeal. I was going to lose my job, going to lose my career, going to lose my wife. Everything happened. Tons and tons of work that I had to get done before I go away. Now, that's not just me, but everybody you talk to has the same trial or a similar trial every year before the feast. Do you have that?
I've had some, yeah.
Okay.
All our trial is just to get ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I must have failed my trials.
okay. Well, I've asked a lot
Get
of other
ready
people,
to host.
and they all can say, yeah, it's always been bedlam before the feast.
Well, I mean, just before I came down here for this fall feast, I was going through it with my boss. I was sanding his property, and every Sabbath ended up becoming like picking at me because that's their work day.
Yeah.
That's when the chores are done on this farm that I'm staying at. But I made up for it doing it on preparation day and then on Sunday when they went to church.
Yeah.
But this last one where it was just pick, and I just said, I'm packing all my stuff up, and this is on Sabbath. I threw it in my truck with no clutch, and I drove it 100 miles here. And then the day that I showed up, which was on Sabbath, the next day, the regular property guy here was leaving to go to work somewhere else, and I just happened to come on the right time, and then I picked up from there.
So the test is, will you keep my laws, or are you going to cave into the world
Right.
problems? Whatever that problem is,
Right.
every year. Every single year.
And
to
I
go
had
through it.
just packed up from my apartment and went over there to work for him. So at that point, my apartment was still in limbo, but just on the after the feast, everything went through, and I'm paid up all the way to the end of January. So I have all these books that I had been saving up for on how to do it like our forefathers did, as far as prepping food, making soap, all these things that I had been studying and looking up. I can go back, get my apartment in order, get all my stuff together, and then bring it down here so I can start studying and continue to do maintenance on the land to get ready.
Let me wrap this up. The 10 days of awe are 10 days of trial and tribulation. To repent, to come back, to have your name. May your name be found in the book of life. You have to repent. Teshuvah, teshuvah, teshuvah. So we have the 1290 days, September 22nd, 2023. That's 6 months before 2024, which is the year that represents the Feast of Trumpets, Judgment. And the next 10 years will be judgment years. We have right now, this year alone, we have the Po River drying up, we have the Lure River drying up, the Danube River drying up, we have the Rhine River drying up, we have the Mississippi drying up, the Platte, the Colorado, we have the Rio Grande drying up, we have the Amazon drying up, we have the Yangtze drying up, we have Lake Umaya in Iran drying up, we have another lake in China that's dried up, and we have the Murray-Darling River system low. It's their wet season now, but it's low. Every major river, these are all the longest rivers in Europe, in North America, and South America, are all drying up around the world.
Wow.
In 1 year.
Did you say Amazon River?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. In 1 year.
It's a long one.
Okay? So now, this is 2022. 2026 is when I believe the two witnesses will show up, based on the Daniel 8 scripture that I just read to you, and some others. If they say that there's not going to be any rain anywhere in the world for 3.5 years,
Right.
this is just 1 year. We're already coming into famine. There's a potato famine in Australia right now.
Is it really?
The ground was too wet to plant, so they got a shortage of potatoes. Europe's got the hunger stones. The crops have failed in Europe. They're failing out west. We got problems coming. Your price of food's going up not just because of fuel. It's going up because there's no food. The price of rice in the Philippines is doubled. Okay,
I
they're
think
screaming.
Nita said that, something about that. You know, Nita?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she said because Philippines, because she got relatives over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not even started yet. The pump is just being primed. When the two witnesses come, and that is 3 years from now, and there's no rain, what will happen to the world? 6 billion people are about to die over the next 10 years from sword, famine, and plague.
Excellent.
You, Yahweh's assembly, or assemblies of Yahweh,
Assembly.
have got to get ready and get the people ready. Not just the assemblies of Yahweh, but all the churches of God, all the Jewish Messianics, all the Jews, all the Hebrew roots, all the other parts of the body that don't want to talk to you because you use the sacred name. We got to get them all to get ready, because the saints are going to be trampled underfoot. And I need you to have my back when I'm fleeing from somebody, or me to have your back when you're fleeing. That's the time we are now about to enter into. And Amos says he does nothing unless he first tells his prophets. So I'm presenting to you here what I've been trying to say, and I've been coming clearer and clearer understanding with each passing year. I've been saying it now since 2005. I spoke here in 2009. This clarity about the 10 days of awe just came last year. And I've written the book, The Restoration of All Things. The Abomination That Makes Desolate is about to be published, I hope, by December 1st. Then there's a third book called The 10 Days of Awe that I'm rewriting, and it's going to explain a lot of this stuff. But I'm just out of time. I don't have time to edit the book properly and do all the bells and whistles, because the shit's going to hit the fan starting next year, if my understanding is correct. And I've run it by you guys, and I know you're not a stupid man. You haven't objected to anything I've said so far. But you're going to have to think and look at it.
You know what you brought up, and of course the scripture points out that before you have 7 good years, and then that last year should be double everything, or triple if you got to wait till
Okay.
51 to grow anything. I haven't not seen in agriculture that sign yet,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
unless you had to start at the beginning of those 7 years, you know.
so let me ask you a question, because you bring up a good
Because
point.
I watched,
Yeah.
I farmed here too.
Yeah.
See,
I've done the same.
so that's what my
What year did
why you
you?
haven't seen it
What year did you keep the sabbatical year? What year did you let the land rest here?
several times, but
Which year?
I can't remember now.
Can you keep the Sabbath on a Tuesday?
Nope.
No,
Can you keep it on a Thursday? When's the Sabbath?
Same thing.
Shabbat.
Right.
Friday night sunset to Saturday night sunset. Can you keep the sabbatical year whenever you want?
No, I don't think so.
It's got to be kept at the right time.
But nobody's ever proved to me what's the right time. And you haven't either.
I can, if you give me more time. But not today.
Right.
I've got 89 sabbatical and jubilee approved, and they all line up. And what most people don't know is that random.
So what year are you keeping? this year?
My sabbatical year begins Aviv 1, 2023
2023. Okay. It's
to Aviv 1, 2024.
okay.
So I am trying to get stocked up. And just coming out of a situation where I almost didn't have a place to stay, it just kind of messed me up.
Yeah, but I mean,
So Aviv 1.
we have people come through here and they say, "Well, they kept it this year. They kept it last." And one guy says, "I won't eat nothing that's grown this year."
Yeah.
So he has all this stuff stored up from last year and everything, and then he eats that, but he won't eat anything that grows by itself. You know?
When I came here in 2009, you guys had a great big spread going on here, and I would not eat anything that was harvested this year. I
So
came
you
in
got the same idea then.
I came in December 2009, near the end of the sabbatical year. So I had my own little fix, and then the one lady here went and looked for stuff that was made from stuff that was stored from last year, and she brought me a plate. This was all from last year. She said, "That's awesome. You actually did that for me?" She said, "Yes." That was so nice. I forgot what her name is, but she did that for me. I thought that was the nicest thing anybody's ever done. But you can prove this. And I'm pointing at you, but I don't mean to be pointing at you. A lot of people want to bury their head in the sand and say it can't be proven. Therefore, I can use that excuse, I don't know when it is, which is BS. You can know when it is. I'm not that smart. But I can prove it. 2 Kings 19:29, the Bar Kokhba revolt. Then you got the tombstones of Zoar, right? They date. They use both calendars. They use the crescent moon and the Hillel calendar. And when you know that, you can plot them all out. And I've got the world record. I've got 30 tombstones. More than Nave, more than anyone else. I've got 30 tombstones, and every single one of them confirms the sabbatical and jubilee years that I am talking about.
So when are you gonna keep the land sabbatical then? You said
Next-
Aviv 1st,
2023.
2023.
Yeah,
So that would line up with what Yahweh Restoration Ministry is doing. They're keeping the sabbatical this biblical year.
are they?
Yeah.
Good.
Steve did it last
Last
year,
year.
technically, going into this year. But I've always talked about that. They're like, well, so Steve, or one of our brothers, he kept the sabbatical year this year, but now he's already starting to rototill for next year, even though the biblical year starts in the spring. And so he used the barley as an excuse. Well, how else is the barley gonna come the next year? Well, it grows on its own.
It grows on top.
So there's no reason to rototill this year. If you're gonna keep the sabbatical, I was just thinking that you would start on the biblical year, which would be in March. You wouldn't switch over to the agricultural year, which is what one calendar does,
Yeah.
but it's not biblical.
It's not biblical. That's what Judah does. And Judah doesn't even keep it. They sell it to somebody for $1.
Right, and so, but it's still being used, it's not being.
Yeah, but
invested.
Yeshua, he announced the Day of Atonement for the next year.
Right, so, like, for
That's
instance.
the way I understand. He announced that for the next year at Day of Atonement.
Yeshua?
Yeah.
What verse are you talking about?
I don't know. I have to look it up.
The only sabbatical year that's mentioned with him is in Luke, when it says they went through the fields picking the grains, and it was an acceptable year. The acceptable year that took place was his first year in ministry, which is 28 AD. That was a sabbatical year.
Okay.
So I don't know of any others that he mentioned. And if you got one, I would love to have it.
It is interesting though, because technically this year the land rested, pretty much. Nothing was harvested, nothing. It just the garden was overgrown and everything, and then I had gotten in here to get it ready for next year.
I had a lot of good stuff out of my garden.
Yeah, well, I meant like the ones that were normally taken care of this year, but
So
that's the other thing, and you know, people, it's like when.
But to
is
get
the
back
right
to your
sabbatical?
question, do you reward your child when they don't obey you? So you were asking, where's the 6-year double blessing?
Yep.
Did you obey those previous 6 years? Did you obey the sabbatical cycle before that?
Right.
So
No, because
you don't know when.
I don't know when, and
Right. So why should
nobody
I-
proved it to me where it was.
Why should I give you a double then?
Right, but then the other thing I'm thinking that if you're not giving any effort, that shows one thing, and if you're giving some effort, even if it's a little bit
Yeah.
off, that shows another thing, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
So
I would agree with that.
It goes back to the question, where in the world has somebody gotten the double blessing? You know, because usually we hear about these things. So you got a double blessing on your land that
I
you were keeping.
kept my first sabbatical year in 2009 when I was here. I kept another one in 2016. 2009, I hadn't done it before, so there shouldn't be a double blessing.
Right.
I'm just trying to figure this out. Am I doing this right? 2016, I had all kinds of things happen that were a blessing. Right?
And that
2009,
was
I had
just
to,
making the effort
one of
to
the
do
things-
it the best way you could.
yeah, but one of the things you have to do in the sabbatical year is forgive debts. I had people owe me lots of money.
Mhm.
I didn't want to obey that.
Mhm.
That's thousands, not hundreds, thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Come on, lots of money here. I did it. I didn't like it, but I did it.
Okay.
My income virtually tripled.
Yeah.
I never lacked a job or money from that day on. How do you measure that? Right? How do you measure that? My garden was I grew a 28-pound cabbage. Cabbage is only 3 pounds. I grew them to 28. My garden was awesome. So, how do you measure this? So you're just looking for, okay, got 15 more grapes this year, and I only had 7 last year. Okay? He gives you stuff in different ways. You know, he blesses you in things you
So-
can't even imagine.
If we were to keep it here, obviously we didn't do it the last, preparing for the whole cycle, so we would start at the end of this next 7 years to actually
No,
prepare and keep it.
if you learn about the Sabbath Friday afternoon, when do you keep the Sabbath?
Right.
The next week? No, you start now. So you know this, I'm telling you, the sabbatical year begins in March, or March, April, whenever it is.
Right.
That's when you start. And you keep it for a year. So if if the land's prepared or not, it doesn't matter. And you're not gonna plant if you want to obey.
But the sabbatical land year rest would be on the 7th.
It is the 7th
And
year.
then, right,
This
but
year.
the Jubilee is the following year.
No, Jubilee, that's a Jewish thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You cannot prove the Jubilee here.
Okay. So you're saying.
1947, what happened? Israel went back to the land.
1948.
47 at the United Nations. They started going back. They became a nation in 1948.
Okay, I gotcha.
1947 was the Jubilee year. What's the Jubilee year about? Return to the land. It just so happens to be a
Time
coincidence.
magazine had
That sounds
the
like
year 1949 as a whole year in Israel.
As a holy year? Okay. Time magazine is the Sanhedrin now?
All I'm just telling you,
Yeah.
my mother kept that magazine around for a long time.
And
And so, was that true or not? That's what I'm saying.
I would say not, based
Okay.
on my evidence.
Okay, I'm just saying that 1949, that was
Yeah.
a holy year.
1948.
Because some of them sold their property to somebody else, just like you say,
Yeah.
for a buck. That is a, whatever.
Yeah, it's
So they could still continue on their merry way.
that's right.
You
So
know,
1946 would have been the 7th year, the 49th year. 1947 was the Jubilee year.
I've heard this before too.
And that's when Israel went back to the land. And that's not plucking it out of the sky. That's based on 89 historical, biblical.
So
Facts.
47 came up with your calculations.
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, you did mention something that was kind of interesting to me. Okay, you're going along life, and all of a sudden, in real time, you go, oh, wow. And then you have to adjust from that moment on. And so it's not like you're given preparation time. You know, you didn't prep all that time ahead of time because you didn't know to prep, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Your
And this kind of-
preparation was knowing that you need to obey God,
Yep.
and that there's a jubilee and a sabbatical year, and I don't know exactly where it is because it's not one of my subjects I've really studied into, but this guy from Ontario came by and he's got all these proofs. Now we got to prove them right or prove them wrong. Okay, and it's fairly simple to do, right? 2 Kings 19:29, the most debatable year in history.
2 Kings 9:29.
1929. And from that, all you gotta do is count by 7, and you will hit every sabbatical year in history, going forward and backward. You don't even need to know the Jubilee year. But the Jubilee year is also given to you there, and that's 700 BC, and all you count from it by 49, and you will hit every Jubilee year, going forward and backward in time. You have no excuse. And then there are other Jewish sabbatical years that line up with that and confirm that to be correct. And all I've done is taken that 701 BC, which is 701 BC. Where are you? (701 BC), 2 Kings 19:29, and I just count by 7, going backwards and going forwards. You can do this on Excel. And you will end up here, 2023, as a sabbatical year. You don't even have to know all the other ones. But
So when's the next Jubilee then?
2045.
2045.
Now, Rambam wrote the Mishnah in 1170, somewhere around there. And he also edited his own book. And he also confirmed that the book was correct. And in that book, he was asked, when is the sabbatical year? And he says, by tradition, we Jews keep it last year. But the actual sabbatical year is this year. So when you compare that, and so we did, and this was a surprise question that was put to me on a live radio show. When we check it, the year that he said that was 1177. And the year before was the sabbatical year. So what he said was, this was the sabbatical year, and the year before that was the one they kept by tradition.
Okay.
He confirmed exactly what I was saying. The Jews keep it a year or a year and a half before. Zuckerman, Wacholder, Schur, and somebody else, the 4 renowned chronologists on sabbatical and jubilee years, leave out the evidence that doesn't fit their theory. They leave out all the tombstones. They leave out, each one leaves out one verse in Maccabees, which confirms that this begins at the Aviv. So when you start leaving out evidence because it doesn't fit your theory, then there's something wrong with your theory.
Now, what do you mean by tombstones?
Okay, so we have after the temple fell in 70 AD, there's a community down in the south of the Dead Sea called Zoar. And these are tombstones they found in Zoar. So I have the latest one of 515 and the earliest one of 360 AD. And when I plot them according to the tombstones, they give you the day they died, they give you the month they died, they give you the year they died, and they give you the sabbatical cycle that they died in, and they give you that all in relation to when the temple was destroyed. So now we just count from when the temple's destroyed to their year and plot it in. So that one is 416, and that one would have said, this is the 3rd year of the 6th sabbatical cycle on such and such a day.
That's all on a tombstone.
Yes,
It is.
30 of them. Yes. I've got it all documented. That'll be my
Wow.
next book.
That's something.
It is. And I got 30 of them. And they all match. Now, the trouble that people have with them is, at the beginning, they're going by the crescent moon and the barley. And then Hillel comes out in 358, which is right in, we're 358, with the new Hillel calendar,
Right.
because of persecution. So there's a transition in here where there's some used and some don't. But if you're only going by one system, they don't make sense. If you're using the wrong system, they don't make sense. But when you understand both systems, they make 100% sense. I happen to understand both. So
And which-
that's
Which 2 systems are you talking about?
the crescent moon and the barley to begin the month and the year, and then there's the Hillel calendar, which goes by the conjunction and the 19-year cycles,
Cycle.
right?
Crescent moon and barley, and then
I'm not,
compared to the Hillel.
yeah,
calendar.
I'm not here to argue with you over calendars today.
Oh no, I'm still researching a lot of this stuff. It's
Yeah.
just interesting to me. So basically, Hillel, he kind of made his own little thing according to his tradition.
You did a pretty good job.
He did
really.
a good job, but check the postponement rules.
But he-
Yeah,
that's what I'm
that's
saying.
crazy.
So when it becomes inconvenient, they can switch it. But
Yeah.
his calendar starts in the fall.
No, that started after the 12th century.
I'm saying, like, what time of the
Before,
year does the calendar
Physically
start?
correspond.
Yeah, when does it start? Hillel. So we got the biblical year that starts in the
The
spring.
current Hillel calendar starts in the fall, according to the Jews.
Okay.
The civic, the civil.
Yeah, and that's something they brought in. Okay,
It's
there's
just interesting to me that this man's name is exactly what Lucifer's name is, because it's not Lucifer in the Hebrew scriptures. It's only one time that Lucifer's mentioned in the scriptures, and when you look up that word Lucifer, it's literally Hellel, and it's pronounced exactly like this guy's name.
okay.
Which is when I first heard this, I realized, because the first time I ever seen that was in the scriptures from South Africa. It said Hellel, and I'm like, well, hold on a minute, that's supposed to be Lucifer. So I looked it up in the Strong's, and sure enough, that's Hellel, right? So it's not Eve, it's Hava, right? So there's all these name changes, but these things matter, especially towards the end times, where you're looking at this person that changed the biblical calendar.
Yeah. There's a lot. There's a lot.
This kind of reminds me too, you mentioned that one, and then the Catholics went along and changed the date from Saturday to Sunday, I believe, back in their time, because they were both political and religious at the same time. So the political end said, well, let's do this. Religion end, well, we should really do this.
Constantine changed it to Sunday because he was ticked off with the Jews having to rely on the Jews to determine when Easter was. So they wanted to determine it themselves, and he came up with that, plus the Easter law, at about the same time, 321.
Yep.
And it was that which also led Hillel to do his stuff because of the persecution that was coming up. So there's a whole lot of things going on at this time. And again, I go through that in the Restoration of All Things. I go through that step by step to show you how this stuff happened. But yeah, we have overused my 1 hour that I was allowed.
Yeah, good, because information overload, but I'll be looking into this because I've been really wanting to get into the technical, biblical calendar and calculating the Jubilee, because most people that I ask that are keeping it can't explain it, which is frustrating to me when you're trying to push this and you cannot explain it correctly. And it's going to be tough because obviously the biblical calendars, like you said, you got the crescent moon and barley, but then you have people that are using the dark moon,
Yeah.
and the
Then there's-
equinoxes.
Then there's the constellation people, which change
Sure.
it there. Like we got 3 different months that we're keeping the holy days in.
Right.
And
But actually, as it's getting closer to the end, it's starting to line up, whether you're doing it using the equinox or you're doing it using the crescent moon and barley. They were only like a day apart this year from a lot of the sacred name groups. They were 1 day apart, and I didn't see any that were a month apart, like it
Well,
was
we were a
last
month
couple
early.
years. Right.
we were a month early this year, last year.
But
and the
who
year
is
before.
we?
Well, I don't know who you call we. I don't know, my group, whatever you want to call them.
Right, so you got the ones that I've been studying with for a while. So you got the Congregation of Yahweh Jerusalem. Okay, that's through Don
That's Don
Esposito.
Esposito.
Here, Yahweh's Restoration Study,
Yeah.
Yahweh's Restoration Ministry, and then Jerry Heelan are some of the main ones that I go through. And obviously, Don Esposito is keeping it different.
Don Esposito started his stuff after I presented him the Jubilee years in 2005.
But what I'm talking about is the dates for the feast this year were only a day apart.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, and then you're using the dark moon and equinox for that one, and you're using here, we use the crescent moon and barley, and see what I'm saying? But and when they calculated them all out, it was only a day difference versus being a month different, which is quite different.
We
than a
were,
day.
we were a month earlier than
Yeah.
everybody this year.
Yeah.
So I have got to change this book because it doesn't have the right things in there.
But that's the correct title, though, right? If
Yeah.
I were to look that up.
If you go to Amazon, you can get
Yeah.
that there.
Let me write that down.
Give me a couple days to get that fixed so we get the new print on there, because that's,
Yeah, that's cool. And so what are you actually fixing on this one? Just having those 7 years numbered?
here, let me show you this. So there's the one I use,
Okay.
and there's 70 there, right? 69?
So it's missing the numbers.
They're missing. I just ordered these from Amazon myself, so I have a couple to take on this tour. And I didn't realize until today that they were missing, so I'll just call it, yeah. But,
I like that too. It's got the soft touch cover.
I gotta take a water test and I turn the water on.
Okay. Oh, it's that time already, huh?
Yeah,
What is it, twice a year?
4 times.
Oh, wow.
So we believe, like you, that the crescent moon should be seen,
Yeah.
you know, for the day, months and so forth in the year. And
no man can know the day or the hour.
Hmm?
No man can know the day or the hour. That was the proof for me, and when I seen that, it blew me away.
But we've, and also in Jerusalem, we take our time from Jerusalem.
Yes, so do I. So do I. And so this year I was over there looking for the barley myself.
Was that?
Yep, and we found it, and the Karaites came and looked at the same field and said it was already shattering. Okay, that means you got to declare the month. But then they went with another month. And I said, how can you do that? Because the barley in the south wasn't ready. So they figured you got to have barley in every field.
Oh, was that right?
Everyone's got to make a barley offering. No, it's one wave offering, one omer by one, whether the barley's ready up north or down south, doesn't matter. It's one omer. So anyway, that's the dispute we're having with them.
What about the natural barley that grows by itself?
This is natural.
Is that what you're taking?
That's what I was looking for. Whatever.
You
If-
wasn't taking for the planet.
No, the planted barley is domesticated. It's made so that it all comes ripe at the same time when a machine can go through it. The wild barley is, well, I look on nature's, and some people discredit because it's got rocks. Hey, if God planted it, it counts,
Yeah.
right? So I look wherever I see barley. Okay, not beside a road, in a field, away from a road. I found lots. I found fields of it. So I kept it a month earlier than everybody else this year. and those who followed me and took. I don't make a decision for the group. I tell them, here are the facts. You're to judge angels. Judge the facts.
But you were looking at the barley in the fields here in America versus.
No, I was looking at the barley in Israel.
Okay, cool.
I was in Israel,
That was where mine.
and it's cold. Israel in February.
I know. I just had a friend come back from Israel just a couple weeks ago. She came back with a lung infection. She's better now, but she got to go over there. She was supposed to go during the feast, but she obviously went after the feast because it was pretty much wrapping up by the time
Yeah.
she got there.
After I did the bar, I went to Saudi Arabia and climbed up Mount Sinai and seen the golden calf altar and all that stuff there. That was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done. So I've been to Noah's Ark now there. I have proven that Bible true on every account. I can't disprove, Noah's Ark. I can't disprove Mount Sinai. I can't disprove the golden calf altar. It's real. So I have no excuse not to obey.
Right.
So I want to thank you, sir, for allowing me to share this with you today.
Thank you.
And give me a lot more time than what you said.
Yeah. But I got to get some things done. We don't have a lot of extra time here.
If
Or extra,
You have
extra
more-
people either, huh?
if you have more questions on this, I'd love to give you this. Amazon's got it, and I need this to present to other people.
Okay.
But if you found what I'm saying worthy, please let the other groups know. Whatever groups you're in touch with. You just look up Joseph F. Dumont on Amazon and you'll get everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm right now.
And your current address, is it on here too?
Well, I don't put my address out there, but you can always get a hold of me, admin@sightedmoon.com.
Cited?
Sighted Moon?
Is it written on here anywhere?
Yeah, right there.
This is right here. Sighted M.
Oh.
Sighted Moon.
Yeah, that's a crescent moon down there. .com.
Okay, that's easy.
See, we used to, of course, there used to be quite a few people that would give us sightings over in Israel, and then Nehemiah was one of the last ones to do it,
Yeah.
But he was here in Lansing one time. This one guy had invited him. He come in there, and he says, he'd shaved his beard and everything. He said, "You wouldn't even recognize me, would you?" I said, "No." Because he was over with Michael Root several times, and I went to see him, And he said, he talked about Yahshua and everything, because there's several of us went up there, probably about 12 of us went up there to this motel where he was at. And then he said, he really was giving a nice talk about the Savior. But then at the end he says, I'm a Karaite and I don't believe in the Savior. I thought, what in the world did you just bring us up here for and talk about this, And then at the end, he just wiped it right off, That's it, and all he wanted to do was sell his books. I know that's what he wanted to do.
Oh, I see.
And I was just flabbergasted because I saw him with Michael Root, and I thought Michael Root gave him way too much time to talk. I wouldn't have came to see Michael Root, but
Was that in 2004?
I can't remember what year it was.
Because I was
but
here for that.
Michael
Root and Nehemiah. I didn't know who
I
they
came
were.
across his Mystery of Iniquity book. You go to the chapel and they just give they give a bunch of books away. People got all the pretty nice books, and that was one of the old ones that was just off to the side. I read that whole thing cover to cover. The way he was comparing in Revelation some of these beasts and everything to actually military equipment, because he was in the Marines, and how he kind of got everything together. I thought it was pretty cool. And then he really got into the origin of Easter, he got pretty in-depth about it, which I had never heard before, which would be tremendously offensive to most Bible believers nowadays.
Do you want to
Because he
know?
gets in there really good.
You
and I
want to know
just
who
thought it
the
was
Father,
cool.
Son, and Holy Ghost are? 'Cause that's who Easter's all about. Father,
Right.
Son, and Holy Ghost. It says in
It's the Trinity. is
in
that what it
Genesis
said.
that Ham uncovered the nakedness of Noah. What that means is, if you go to Leviticus, I forget what, 14, 19, I forget what it is. It says that when you uncover the nakedness of a man, you're uncovering his wife.
Yeah, yeah.
So Ham is having sex with his mother. So in mythology,
When his father was drunk.
all
passed
mythology
out.
says the same thing.
Yeah.
The father is also the son. So we have the father and son, Ham and Canaan. Why did Canaan get cursed? That's the first time we mentioned Canaan, he's cursed.
Right.
It's Ham had a bastard child. Canaan was a bastard child. Noah's wife was the mother.
No
She
kidding.
becomes the mother of all living. She becomes the queen of heaven. She's today called the Blessed Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
The father, with the statues at the Catholic Church, we got Joseph and Mary and Jesus. Well, that's actually Ham, or Ham the son, Ham the father, or Cush, and because Cush does the same thing. He goes into his grandmother, and so does Nimrod, and that's where everything gets messed up. That's what I'm writing about right now. I'm going to show everyone, here's who you're praying to. That goes for Catholics, Protestants, East Indians, Asians. They all have the same Trinity, if you will. Whereas we have Isaiah 12:2. Isaiah 12:2.
That gives a different understanding on that. The son is the father thing with the oneness doctrine. Huh?
Yeah.
So we got to
Yeah.
be careful with our
Exactly.
father-son stuff in our stuff,
Yeah.
because he says there is no one besides me.
That's right. So
If
there's
there
the
is no one
father,
besides Shema
there is the
Israel.
son, and they're united by the same purpose, same spirit, same power. Yeah, it's just interesting because we were talking about some things that kind of just brought something up else I could.
Yeah, but this goes along with this whole
Yeah.
Sodom and Gomorrah stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a sex thing.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
The ancient pictures of Cush, who is
Jeez.
also called Mercury.
Oh, is that right?
It's a black man with a penis being held by both hands
Yeah.
this big.
Yeah, I see.
Because-
There's a
Is
statue.
that right?
But
Yeah.
the penis was the power.
Yeah,
It was the authority. And that's why we have the,
exactly.
The monuments
all
now.
the obelisks and everything like
which
that. yeah.
Shem,
And that's why we got this steeples in the churches.
yeah,
Yeah,
Shem,
and the
Shem
Christmas
took,
tree with the
Shem
Christmas
took
balls on
Nimrod to court. They were in court for 10 years. He went through the lower courts, he went through the upper courts of Egypt, and he prosecuted Nimrod for blasphemy and treason. And then Nimrod was pulled apart by 4 horses, and his body parts distributed to the major cities. And if you do like Nimrod or continue like him, this will also happen to you. That was the message. His wife, Nimrod's wife, Semiramis,
Yeah.
which was Noah's wife, went on a wild spree and went around and collected all the body parts. And the one body part that she couldn't get, which in mythology says the fish ate, was his penis.
Is that right?
So you're right when you say they are corrupted by sex.
Jeez.
And that's
okay,
where that-
I didn't even realize all that stuff.
So the golden calf, Hathor, is the Blessed Virgin Mary. The bull, Apis, is Ham. And you see Ham on the golden calf altar. They got it drawn in there. Ham underneath, sucking on the tit of Hathor, the cow. That's the same thing that Vishnu is doing over in India. Right? What does that mean? It means that Ham is the earth, and Noah's wife is the sky. And when you see that in hieroglyphics, she's over top of him, he's underneath her, and his head looks like a penis, as if they're having sex.
In India.
Well, that's also in Egypt. the same picture.
Is that right? Oh, man.
This is the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost that most of us come out of.
Yeah.
And that most of us still bring parts of that into our Torah walk.
Yep.
And we don't know it.
Yeah,
So-
they went from the 3-in-1 to the 2-in-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's
that's-
exactly what we've been dealing with here quite often.
There's
And-
just one.
And quite well, the main thing is the echad, okay? That can mean the number one, and it can also mean united. But there's only one Father, there's only one Son. This is pretty clear. Yeshua wasn't praying to himself. He didn't come in his own name.
Isaiah
He
says,
didn't do his own will. He didn't say his own, words. So-
I am the Messiah, and besides me there is no other.
Right.
And it also says, I think it's 12:2. Now, I am Jehovah. I am your Yeshua. I am your salvation. That tells me they're one and the same. They're not two people. They're
Okay, see,
one.
that's what we were talking about, and that's where a lot of the arguments go, because it's the word echad,
Yeah.
but you're using it as the number one, and it can mean that. But when I've looked at the scriptures as a whole, it means united, and the thing that sold me on it was Yeshua said to his disciple, I want you to be one with me as I am one with my Father. I am one with Yeshua, but we are not the same being. But we are united, echad, one, in purpose and with the same spirit. So just like Yeshua wants me to be united with him, the same way that he is united with his Father. So I am not Yeshua because I'm one with him. Neither is Yeshua, neither is the Son the Father, like they are one. That word one, echad, means to be united in purpose and in mind. So this is something to think about. Like I have to think about these things, but I really got into having a regular reading schedule, so that when I run across teachings, so in 1 year, okay, just a few years ago, I read the New Testament 12 times, Book of Proverbs once, the Book of Psalms once a month, okay? So in the New, in the Old Testament, it took about four times in a year because it's 3 times as long. So I was doing 8 chapters in the Old, 8 chapters in the New, 5 chapters in the Psalms, 1 chapter of Proverbs, and 1 chapter in Ecclesiastes. So I was doing 22 chapters a day for a year. And so when people started coming up with things, it was just, and this was just reading, this wasn't studying, this was just simply reading. And so I was putting this in my memory so that the Spirit could bring it to remembrance later. And I started hearing all these different types of teachings, but because I had a general overview of the scriptures, I was like, well, this doesn't match up with this, and this doesn't match up with that. And I've noticed a lot of people that were teaching a lot of things were either teaching something that they learned from somebody else, but the majority of them read the least amount of scriptures. They did a lot of studying, and studying is good too. You want to read, and then you want to study, then you have prayer, then you have fasting often, you have the actual obedience of the scriptures, the sharing of it, right? So the application and the sharing. But I notice people have a lot of knowledge, and they have a lot of understanding, but they lack discernment. And discernment is strengthened through simply reading the scriptures and becoming familiar what is right and what is wrong.
And knowing what they mean.
Exactly, right. And so a lot more studying is going on versus a lot more, not enough reading to be able to get that discernment with the knowledge and understanding that creates wisdom.
I agree with you. And I reprimand people all the time because they spend so much time studying Facebook and they don't study their Bible.
Right, so I've had somebody tell me, well, I can't sit in the scriptures that long, but you have no problem watching a secular movie for 2 hours,
Yeah.
or being on Facebook for several hours.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sir, do you have anything else that I can throw at you?
No? Thank you for sharing.
Thank you for
And,
having me.
Yeah,
You want to pray us out?
sure. Almighty Father Yahweh, we're so thankful for this time. Thank you for the brother taking this time too, Yahweh. And bless him, Father, as he goes about and helps other people along the path here, Yahweh. And definitely we need to know more about these things, especially about the holy years and so forth, Yahweh. And so that we'll be closer to your word and closer to the millennium, closer to Yahshua's return, so that we can be more positive when we tell people they better get ready, because it's really getting close. And Father, we understand this, and we know that it's going to break out suddenly as a high wall. And so we are getting our minds prepared, Yahweh, for these things, and help us to get our houses, we prepare food, to plan ahead for these things, buy more beans and rice and whatever we need to do, Father, in this end time. Yahweh, we're in your hands, and we love you. We love your Son, Yahshua. So help us in all these different things. Help us make the right decisions as we continue to serve you in sincerity and truth. Thank you, Father. And give Joe here safe journeys as he goes around, Father. In the name of Yeshua. Hallelujah.
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 There's that pack. I want
Thank
you to
you.
get that. Other
I've
people
got-
will need that.
I've got 90 hours of driving, just driving. That's not even talking yet.
Is that right? So where's your next destination?
I'm going to see Jim Staley next.
Is that right?